Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another weekend workshop. Today, we are excited to talk about designing your unshakable confidence blueprint. And one of our weekend clients is here to deliver this workshop to us. So we're excited to dive into that in just a moment. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie Ramsey, and I am the project manager of the weekend project, which is led by Queen's University. And as we get started today, I would love to invite you to introduce yourselves in the Zoom chat. So go ahead, if you know where that Zoom button is, hit the chat at the bottom, and you can either let us know where you're from geographically. Feel free to put in a link to perhaps a website or your LinkedIn or social media. We would love to learn a little bit more about you today. While you are taking a moment to do that, I will acknowledge that Queen's University is situated on the ancestral territory of the Huron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. And as I was mentioning just a moment before we hit record, this is International Women's History Month. And so last week we did a workshop and I focused on an Indigenous woman from Canadian history, who was Molly Brant. But today I want to focus actually on a woman who is only 21, and she is actually making history right now. She is an Indigenous woman who some of you may have heard of. Her name is Autumn Peltier, and she is a young Indigenous water advocate from Wikma First Nation near Lake Huron, and she speaks out about clean water for Indigenous communities. And she's been doing this actually since she was 8 years old. So she was inspired by her great aunt, Josephine Mandamin, and she became aware that many First Nations communities lacked safe drinking water due to pollution and infrastructure issues. So she was determined to raise awareness, and Autumn started educating her peers and soon brought her message to Parliament Hill, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at the 2016 Assembly of First Nations meeting. So she has advocated at the United Nations and later became the Chief Water Commissioner for the Anishinaabe Nation. So, despite facing bullying along the way, she continues to inspire action for water rights and environmental justice. And her advocacy is actually highlighted in a documentary film called The Water Walker, which premiered at the 2020 Toronto International Film Festival. So, I'm going to drop a link to a bio of Autumn in the Zoom chat, but I thought that it would be fitting to acknowledge an Indigenous woman who's actually making history right now here on Turtle Island. So thank you so much, so many of you who are putting your introductions into the Zoom chat. It's always wonderful to see who's on the call, and you never know, you might just meet someone who you can collaborate with, or just hang out for coffee, or connect with, depending on where you are geographically. So, Kat, let's dive into today's workshop. I'm really excited for this. Of course, we know that it takes a lot of confidence in business, not just when you're in early stage, but as you progress in business. This is equally relevant for growth and scale up because every new level requires a new level of confidence. So, I'm going to hand you the virtual microphone, Kat. Let's dive right into it.
Okay, thank you for that, Carrie. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kathern Bly, but I go by Kat. My work blends embodied yoga, somatic practices, identity life coaching, women-centered coaching, and basically I'm supporting women to move beyond self-doubt and step into confident action. And this is very personal work for me after spending years of navigating anxiety and chronic stress and the emotional changes that can come with midlife and menopause. The somatic work that I learned has shown me that it's very easy for women to become disconnected from themselves and their bodies and their confidence. And just a side note, I'm very aware that confidence can be affected by cultural environments, but what we're going to talk about today is going to the wisdom of the body for confidence using somatic. And somatics teaches us that we are nature, and in nature, it's actually a self-healing system, and so are we. And I see that the slides aren't progressing. Just a moment. There we go. So let's take a moment to pause and check in. Invitation to just lower your gaze and close your eyes. Invitation to place one hand on your heart and one on your belly. Take a deep breath and bring your attention back to yourself. away from your to-do list, everyone else's needs, and all the things that you're managing. Let yourself expand beyond your own mind and tap into something bigger, a spacious curiosity, openness, and the energy of not knowing but wanting to discover. Bring your awareness to everyone in your life, your family, community, clients, and invite them into this space with you. Feel the presence of everyone here in this workshop and those dropping in on the replay. We give ourselves and each other permission to be brilliant and imperfect, to take messy action while moving forward together. So I invite you to simply say yes, yes to this intention, and yes to whatever we discover today. And with that, you may open your eyes and just check out a few things around the room, coming back to your space. So today, sorry, Carrie, I think my connection is a little slow here. There we go. I'm going to try to click over here. So this is what we'll explore together today. And just bear with me. We're going to look at what confidence is and what confidence is not, a growth and a fixed mindset, and talk about somatics and neuroplasticity and how they are involved with confidence. You're going to pick an area of your life, and you can start deciding on it now, that we'll explore that you maybe feel a little less confident in. We'll connect with your future self, aka your inner Shiro. We'll explore gaps in actions and resources. Once you've met your inner Shiro, that will come up. And we'll do a recap and questions. And I'm a little bit trigger happy, I see. I just wanted to give you some stats. You can just take a look at these, but it's really sad to me that 85% of women do not feel confident in their bodies. I think that's a really, really sad thing that we need to change. And also too, that when women are in a group, 75% less likely to talk and speak up than men. So those are just some interesting stats. Let's move on to what confidence is. We have Mary here who thinks it's a feeling. Sorry about that. And we'll just bear with me here because there's a bit of spinning, so I think I'm a little bit too fast. Okay, let's go back here. Just deep breath. Okay, perfect. Here we are. So we'll bring Mary back here in a minute. We have Mary who thinks it's a feeling. We have Louise who thinks it's a personality. And we have Barbara who thinks it's a belief. So invitation to type into the chat, which woman do you think is correct? Okay. So what confidence actually is, and I'm going to challenge Google with this. The Google definition says a feeling or belief that can rely on someone or something, affirm trust. But I'm going to go against Google, and I'm actually going to say that it is a skill that can be developed and strengthened, much like a muscle. It's a willingness to try combined with like a trust that you can figure things out. And here's how this works. We create something that's called a confident competency loop. So what happens is you will try, you identify an area in your life that you need confidence in, and you have a vision for that area of your life. And you will try, and when you try, you're going to succeed or fail. But that just gives us valuable information. And then from that, you'll learn, okay, maybe I need to learn new skills and apply what I've learned and improve my abilities and skills. And that in turn builds competency. And then when you have more competency and more self-esteem, that in turn will build more confidence. And it's all action based. And you can take two actions. There's massive action and then there's smaller steps or quick wins. And you might need a combination of both. Because if you take too large of an action and you don't achieve, you might feel that you fail and it might set you back. So you might need to take small steps to gain momentum. Whereas some people may need to take larger action and then um, it will gain momentum because it's out of their wheelhouse. They needed that push, so to speak. And then we'll talk about mindset next. Mindset is another, not necessarily, it is more like an element of growth for confidence. So a fixed mindset is a belief that intelligence, talent, abilities, and unchangeable traits that you're born with them. And it's a leading to desire to look smart and avoid failure. But whereas a growth mindset is the belief that these qualities can be developed. You can learn new skills. You can develop through effort and strategies and persistence. And it views failure as a learning opportunity. So if you change your mind with a growth mindset, and that's the mindset we want for confidence. Here's a great quote from Oprah Winfrey. Think like a queen. A queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is another stepping stone to greatness. So would you think this is a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? Feel free to put that in the chat. Definitely growth. Yeah, Oprah Winfrey is a growth mindset. Next up, we have another exercise for you to do. And before we get into it, here's a little bit of where I come from with somatic being of the body and in the body. Something I'd like you to know is that your body holds your history. So for every time you've stuffed down emotions to stay strong, like every time you've told yourself, just keep going, your body has remembered. And anything else that you've told yourself and just to push through. So I'm wondering, do we have any stuffers of our emotions in the house? You can type me in the chat. So I'm guilty as well. So I've learned to change that. And here's a key. You're going to probably hear that confidence is all in your head, but I'm going to show you with this exercise that it's actually in the body. And our beliefs don't just live in our head, our beliefs live in our body. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take another moment. We're going to imagine that we are, so Laura, we're going to turn inside. So let's lower our gaze, close our eyes, and imagine that you are heading for the refrigerator. And you're going to open it up and grab a big juicy lemon. Take that whole lemon out of the refrigerator over to the table and place it on the cutting board. Grab your sharp knife, cut into it, and then lift one piece and smell it and see what that smells like the juiciness running down your hand, the scent, the aroma, the awakening, the freshness of the lemon. And then take a bite out of that half of lemon. What happens? We'll just come back to the room and just type into the chat what has happened to your mouth. What what sensations are you feeling after you do that? So you're puckering, there's watering of the mouth. Yes, exactly. And I just want to be clear that none of us have a real lemon in front of us right now, correct? We used our mind and our body responded, and it didn't know that it was real or not, but it responded with salivating and puckering. So your body brain cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is imagined. So that's how quickly your brain can change. So that's how we can rewire. So basically, science says when you think you're X, you become X. And this is called neuroplasticity. That's a big word, neuroplasticity, to get your tongue around. So the ways that we learn is one through repetition, like singing the alphabet. And the second is when you tie an emotion, so an emotional event, to an action. For example, if you place your hand over a hot stove and withdraw, that link is made immediately with that emotion and response, and you know not to do it again. And just another point here. So when we thought that and having our bodily body respond, that shows us that the emotions are lying and being pulled from in the body. And it's also where the subconscious lies. I just want to touch a little bit upon neuroplasticity and why it matters with confidence. So basically, I'm going to simplify this down as much as I can. Our brain is made up of billions of tiny brain cells called neurons, and they're all connected through a network. So we have our dendrites, which are our receivers, and we have our axons, which are our transmitters. So they're sending the message. And whenever we think or act, our neurons communicate, and that signal is called a neurotransmitter, and it's responsible for every step, action, emotions, heart beating, etc. And what happens is the more we do something on a repeatedly, that connections between strengthens. And over time, if it's repeated, something happens called myelination. And basically, all that is a protective coating goes around that path, much like the plastic coating around a wire, and it makes it easier and easier for that signal to be sent. So that means we can definitely learn new skills. This is this reasoning here. And like I mentioned, the faster way to learn new skills is when you attach an emotion to that. So the brain is a muscle, and we're going to train that muscle and grow it just like we would working out to grow a muscle. And in coaching, we would do the create building blocks to grow your brain. Uh, everyone on this workshop has come here with your own neural networks and neural connections that are personal to you. And they've been established or wired because of your life experiences, and you've developed belief systems because of this that are all uniquely to you. So by going within, which we were going to do in a short moment, to find out why you have a confidence wobble, we will gain valuable information from the body about what's stored there and what underlying patterns and beliefs, or you can call them limiting beliefs, are there for you. So if we plant a new system and then practice it until it becomes a habit, then we can create a confident feedback loop. And I'd like to give you one other exercise. This is quite fun, and this will prove this again about how we can quickly change our neurons. So everyone remembers the FedEx logo, correct? Everyone's familiar with that. So I'm going to ask you, with the FedEx logo, can you tell me which arrow, or sorry, which direction is the arrow pointing? You can put a 1 for left, a 2 for right, and a 3 for cat. I don't remember seeing an arrow in that logo. So we have some to the right, some to the left, and some don't remember seeing it. Okay. So actually, it is pointing to the right. It's right here. Okay. Now, my next question is, what direction is the spoon pointing? You can place a 1 for left, a 2 for right, or a 3, cat, I didn't see a spoon at all. Yes. Okay, we have lots of 3s that did not see the spoon. This is why this is fun. So here is the spoon pointing to the left. Oops, just get my cursor here. There's your spoon. So a lot of you probably now had an aha moment with that and went, whoa, and made a connection. And you probably never, ever unsee that again because we've just created a new neural pathway and it'll be hard to, especially if you had an emotional connection to that response. So that's a fun little exercise. Now, before we get into this, is there any pressing questions? I don't think I see anything. We're going to do some interactive work, so you can grab your journal or you can just experience and take note. And I guess there's a little note that I want to do before we get into this. Just shift slides here. I just wanted to talk just briefly about limiting beliefs. And the limiting beliefs are in our subconscious, in our body, and science also says and believes that it's in the fascia. So those of you who are into yoga and especially yin yoga, you've maybe had emotional releases when you're doing something with maybe a hip stress, which is where a lot of grief and trauma is stored, that's probably why you're moving the fascia. So with regards to beliefs and confidence, beliefs like I'm not enough, it's safer to stay small, or I have to do it to be valued. They don't just live, as I mentioned, in your mind, they're in your body, and over times they create patterns in the way you breathe, in the way you hold your shoulders, in the choices you make. And so let's take an area of confidence. We're going to do some exploring. Take an area of your life where you have a wobble and you want to discover, we're going to just go uncover what might be holding you back. So please think of that area. And when we go within, you can lower your gaze and close your eyes if it feels safe. An invitation to place one hand on your heart and one on your belly or wherever you feel. And to talk to our subconscious, what we do is we use the five senses. So allow me to guide you through this. Think of the wobble. So think of your area of lack of confidence. Really pull up the emotions around that. How is it making you feel? Is it making you feel sad, apprehensive? What is that word for you? Or maybe there's more than one feeling. And then see if it appears to you, if you were to see it, that feeling, first of all, I guess, where would it be? Would it be inside your body or outside your body? If you feel comfortable, place your hand on that spot. This just gives us a more of a connection to that area. And then see if it will present to you as a shape. And if so, let's get some details. Remember, we're talking to the subconscious. So does it have a texture, a color? Maybe it has a smell, a taste. And if you find smell or taste are difficult, I encourage you to bring in a younger aspect of yourself that is very curious because kids will tell you the truth and allow them to tell you what the smell and the taste is if you're having difficulty. Do you hear anything? Does does it have anything to say to you? What thoughts are coming up? And sometimes thoughts and words are the same thing. So are you hearing I'm not good enough? What are your words and thoughts? What actions do you do or not do because of this? Maybe you stay small. Maybe you don't speak up. And we're just doing a gentle dive. You may also ask yourself, where does this feel familiar? Like, when in my life have I felt this way before? And it might take you back to something in childhood. And we're just going to skim the surface. We're not going to go too deep, but we're just gathering information about why this lack of confidence is there and what initiated it. Sometimes there's layers. So when you go back, you might find that this reminds you of another time and you hop there. I'm just going to allow you to remember to go lightly. We don't want to go too deep. We're just gathering information and being an observer. And when you feel ready, you can start to come back to the room, wiggle your hands and toes, and open your eyes when you're ready. We can come back to this and go deeper if you want on the replay and spend more time in this area. If you do have a journal and you want to jot down a few things, feel free to do so. If you feel like you'd like to share, how was that for you? Feel free to do so. And I'm just going to give you a chance to do that. Well, I mentioned someone that I've studied with. She's done 15 years of experience coaching women, and her name is Dr. Claire Zammit, and she has found that she's discovered in her 15 years that she's narrowed it down to 21 invisible patterns. And often that pattern begins in childhood when, as a girl, we learn that our value comes from seeing and serving others. And we become highly attuned to everyone else's needs, feelings, and potential, and we lose touch with our own. So, her top three of the 21 invisible ceilings, the top three are I'm invisible, I'm not enough. We hear this one a lot in business, and I'm alone. So I just thought I'd throw that in for some information. Now, I hope that journey gave you some insight into why you're having a wobble. Did everyone gather some information and get some information from that? Okay. I'm seeing yeses. Okay. Super. A good thumbs up. Thank you. Okay. So that has now shown us why we are having a a wobble. So we've gathered some information. And if I was coaching you, I would take you to a point and show you in order to change your neuroplasticity, we would look at that event that would come up in a different way. And we would work that way and we'd plant those seeds. But for now, we've just gathered some information about why you have a particular wobble, particular lack of self-confidence, and what might be causing that. And like I said, sometimes there's layers. When you dig one way, it takes you further. And it's really interesting. And it's all dependent upon an individual to each person. So I'm just going to read the comment here. Okay. Perfect. Thank you for sharing, Emily. That's great. And it's ugly, Heather. Yes, it can be ugly. Um, okay, so let's just shake that off for a second. So if anybody went a little bit too deep, let's just shake that off. Just let that go. And now we'll move into meeting your future Shiro. And how I came up with this is a little bit of identity work. I base my coaching on the acronym of Shiro, and I really felt that that was a powerful visual for women to connect with because our inner Shiro actually is in us. She's not far away like some teachings teach, like she's not way away. Yes, there might be gaps, which we'll talk about, but we can talk to her now and we can gain information now, which will help us lead to confidence now. And so let's move into yet another discovery with our meeting our inner Shiro. Does that sound good with everyone? Nodding? Yes? Okay. So we'll go back to lowering our gaze again and closing your eyes when you're ready. And what we're going to do is we're going to do an exercise where we meet our inner Shiro, but we're actually going to also have an interview with her and ask her some things so that we can have some tools to set ourselves up for success and confidence now. Okay? So lower your gaze, close your eyes. If you want to start with your hand on your heart, that's a great way to connect with yourself. An invitation here is to find your safe place. If you've never had a safe place, like maybe there's a childhood safe place, and if you never have had one, you can create one now. So imagine where that would be. Would it be a beach? Would it be a forest? And one of the key elements for any of your coaching and any of your work and any of your confidence building is the need to be safe and feel safe. So it's very important that we establish this. And once you're there, again, we're going to tap into all the senses. Just notice if you're at a beach, notice the sand beneath your feet, the smell of the sea air, maybe the birds, the seagulls are squawking. Feel the wind against your face. And find a place that maybe you've created that you'd like to sit down because you're going to meet your future Shiro there. And have a seat and excitedly wait for her. Just feel that emotion rising in your body. And in the distance, you see her coming along, and you're quite excited, and she's quite excited to meet you. She has lots to share, and you're excited to interview her. And she sits down beside you. And what I'm going to do is guide you with some questions. But if at some point you decide that you'd like to have a conversation off on your own, feel free to do that. So she sits down and you notice how she carries herself, what she's wearing. Notice her smile that lights up the room. She is in turn you. So we're going to sit down and maybe ask her a few questions. So let's start with ask her about, or ask her to walk you through what her typical morning routine is. What does she eat? Does she work out in the morning? Does she go for a walk in nature? What kind of boundaries does she maintain or set? What does she do to recharge or restore herself? Let's ask her, what skills has she mastered, particularly when it comes to the wobble that you're working on today? Ask her what habits were game changers in building confidence in this area. Was there any knowledge that proved most valuable to her? Ask her how she thinks differently now than 5 years ago. What new beliefs have replaced old limitations? Ask her how has her relationship with, and you can fill in the blank, money, time, or health, or something else, transformed. So how has your relationship with blank transformed? And ask her, what challenges does she handle differently now? And we'll wrap up the questions now. And if there's anything else, ask her if there's anything else she wants you to know. And then before we go, she's not going to leave. We're actually going to do something different. We're going to actually take her hand and she's going to come into you, give her a hug, and then she and you are going to merge into one. And now that you are her, feel her confidence. Feel how she stands, her posture, her mood. And remember that she is there for you anytime you need her. And we will be working on how to set our goals based on her success. And you can slowly come out of the meditation and open your eyes when you're ready. And I'd be interested to see how that felt for you. Did you gather some great information? Was there anything really that stood out that you thought, wow, this is what I need to work on now and I can do this? I actually have some processing questions. We won't go through them, but I'm going to put these in the chat. Um, just give me a moment to copy them. So they're questions you can ask and process the information, and you can copy these and write them down later. But it helps you, it's going to help with the gap. And I think I have something else here, integration steps as well to integrate what we've learned. We're going to touch upon these in a moment as well. Okay. So now that we've met her, we're going to touch upon slides want to change here. We're just going to touch upon um, a method that's called a method that how people think you can be successful and confident. And it's the have, do, be. And sorry, it's also done. I've seen this both ways, so it's also done do. You have to do in order to be in order to have. So I'm going to use that framework. I've seen it both ways. So basically, you want to do all the things to be confident to have success. And some achieve their goals and actually feel unfulfilled. But the actual way of doing it is to be, do, and have. And what I mean by that is we want to be our future self now, and the other two items, doing and having, will naturally and organically fall into place because we are coming from the being of our future self, and she's already succeeded or she's already confident in this area, and the rest falls into place. I think I had an example that I was going to use. Um, okay, so actually, I'm going to backtrack here. Um, so being our future self now, I mentioned it naturally falls into place. By acting from this elevated identity, your results are aligned with who you want to become. And that's how we become more confident, and that's how we become more successful. So the being, we will set identity goals. Also, by the way, I didn't mention this, but I have a PDF with some worksheet, a PDF worksheet. This is one of the things in there. So you'll set identity goals of who you are becoming. For example, you might be becoming a visionary leader. And then you're going to do, so you're going to process your goals, what you are practicing, make strategic decisions, empowering goals. And you're going to have, which is creating your outcomes, like a thriving company or strong term goals. And each goal will flow naturally from one to the other, from the future self version, and be supported and integrated. So if you start the being, the doing, and the having become natural expressions of who you are. And when you start being your future self, then you can work from today. You don't have to wait till the future. So, when you met your future self, you probably saw some gaps between who you are now and who you want to be. And the future self, like for example, maybe she had a daily routine of a green smoothie. I'm going to use that as an example. So, your goal towards becoming your future self, if that was her thing, then um, you would need to know, you would need to buy the greens. So this is the gap. You need to buy the greens. Maybe you need a Vitamix mixer. You need a recipe, and you need a daily habit or a morning ritual in order to start being her now. And that's easy enough to do. So a goal towards becoming and embodying your future self is you're going to set an identity goal. So that's who your future self is being and embodying her roles and responsibilities that maybe you tapped into with her. And then the process goals are your weekly activities that shape who um, who you are and bridge that gap between who you are now and who your future self is. And then you'll have outcome goals. Again, this is on the sheet, which will be measurable achievements to mark your progress. And I have a tracker as well in there for you to fill out. So when that saying, I'm sure everyone's heard it, of growth happens outside your comfort zone, it truly, truly does. It truly does. And this is how you're going to build and grow your confidence. And you'll also need something else to create. You need a support team and resources, which we're going to talk about shortly. I'll just change my slide. I just wanted to mention something as well about traditional coaching and women-centered. And with traditional coaching, basically, I love this analogy of it's like setting a goal at the top of a ladder for someone, especially a woman. And if that goal does not align with your identity or your subconscious beliefs that we tapped into today, what's stopping you? The woman may start to achieve the goal. She may even achieve the goal, but it will not be sustainable if it does not align with the underlying identity of who she believes she is. And that's how, with the traditional coaching, it's actually the push push, and that does not work for all women. In fact, I was quite surprised when I had a client, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I had a client who actually said to me when were about to talk about next steps after we had done the journey, she actually said to me, um, lay it on me. I've done coaching before. I can take it. And I was like, no, 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 this is not how we work. We pay attention to what your body has just told us, and we make our goals and set our goals from that. And with us, we are actually we're setting our goals from our future self because we want to be successful, and she's achieved and she knows all of that. We just have to, the trick is to now see the gap and then fill the gap. And that goes back to that competency loop of learning new things and trying and failing and gathering information, doing things repeatedly so we grow new neuroplasticity and new habits and behaviors. So it's all a process. I also wanted to mention, let's see here. Um, so that leads to my transformation image on the other side. There's something I wanted to say here for a moment, but I've lost it. It'll come back to me. Uh, so basically, the mental shift is something that changes everything as well, but it's that underlying identity, that underlying um, limiting belief that we touched upon today that needs to be scraped and changed and transformed in order for true transformation to appear, in order for true confidence to be sustainable. Okay, so we did, oh, fill the gap here. So I think I already started to touch upon, okay, filling the gap. So one of the other things with filling the gap is to take self-advocacy by creating your own group of women that you can tap into for their resources. So there's two things. You can, when you see the gap, you might want to take a personal course, you might want to take courses to improve your personal success, to your skills. You might want to take a class, Google, YouTube, but you might also want a network of women who are your professional team, like your health provider, your therapist, your holistic nutritionist, your somatic life coach, wink. And one of the keys to your success is building this community because when you're surrounded by women who are going to cheer you on, whether you succeed or fail, remember that's just data, that's just information. You're going to in turn feel you're going to be supported and cheered on, and that inspiration will keep you going. And this will do more for your confidence than almost anything else. very necessary for long-term success in your confidence. Okay, so just to recap, invitation to I'd love to see what can you acknowledge about your own personal growth from this workshop so far. Like, has there been anything that you've tapped into? Um, Also in feedback, I guess, before we go into question and answer, is there any um, I guess what I want to say also too is I'd like to acknowledge your willingness to invest in yourself and to come here today and just explore and to grow your own greatness through your exploration. You're in a process of discovery, of a discovering new tools and new information about yourself and how to become more confident. So, is there any key takeaways? Would you like me to explain? I think basically, well, another part of the recap I wanted to do is yes, there's the mindset. Yes, there's belief and feelings, but that's all part of the body. So basically, we have the limiting beliefs and touching into the information of the body. Then we have the your Shiro, who is one with all the information, who has succeeded, who we can tap into. And then there's the gap in between those two um, that we need to help develop skills, that competency loop, in order to have success in whatever. And we're only picking one subject today, so it can actually be in any area of our life. But we have to touch on those three. That's how I see in order to then develop the confidence in that area. But the key is to me, the key is the finding that underlying belief because you may think it's one thing, but it actually refers to something way back in childhood or I mean, the emotions can be at any time in our lives, but when there's an emotion attached to an event, we store it in our body. We don't process it. Unless you are able to process it, then we don't get it stored. But chances are anything unprocessed is in the body, and then that starts that new patterning, that new ways of reacting to things. And if you've ever reacted to something and wondered why, there's usually a deeper subconscious underlying statement, but we can get to it and we can uncover it and we can shift it, change it, and grow our confidence through new skills and basically, that is it. So I'd love to hear your takeaways from today if you want to put it into the chat. And like we've said, like today we've reframed what confidence actually is. We've explored how confidence and the lack thereof it in the body, it's not just in the mind. So that's an important one to remember. You chose a specific area and uncovered a belief or a pattern, I'm hoping. If not, you can come back and I have a PDF that you can do deeper work with. I also have in the PDF, you can do a questionnaire to see how your mindset, whether you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, and then you want to veer towards a growth mindset. You also connected with your future self and your inner Shiro. So you can see your potential, that it is there already. And yes, there is a gap, but that doesn't mean that it can't be achieved. Um, and so what we didn't do is we didn't go in and scrape away and look at that belief any differently. We didn't release any old patterns or build new neural pathways other than for the FedEx logo. And we're going to take daily action. That is in your PDF as well. And I'm going to grab that and put it into the chat. Oops.
While you're doing that, Kat, I'll just mention one of my takeaways. When you were talking about the be, do, have sequence, it reminded me of how important it is to have not just to-do lists, but to-be lists, but we focus so much on
Mm.
what's my to-do list for today. But sometimes we think about it, we don't think about it in terms of our to-be list. And yet, if we did, then then we would probably find that, a lot of things would flow. I'll get you to stop sharing your screen, Cat, right now.
Jim.
And then all right. And also, I'm going to pause the recording. That way, if anybody wants to say things that maybe they're not wanting to have recorded, we can have an open discussion. So for those of you watching the replay, I hope that you found today helpful, and you can reflect and reach out to Kat at your leisure. But we're going to stop the recording for today.